So if you got more money than you know what to do with, and you're buying your child or your wife or your significant other a vehicle, and you want them to have the most safest possible Ram, then the 5th gen is a better choice than the 4th gen. This next high mileage Ram episode brought to you by Real Truck. If you don't mind, stick around to the end of the video. I've got some more information I want to share with you. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Truck Central. I am Mr. Justin Wheeler, and this is my 2019 Ram 1500 Limited High Mileage Edition. In a previous video, I had mentioned that the truck I had before this 5th Gen Limited was a 4th Gen Laramie that I had well over 200,000 miles on. So I'm making this video for two reasons. One, a lot of people have asked about my 4th Gen Ram. How do I feel about it? What were my experiences? Did you have any of the common problems? And two, or the second reason I want to make this video is because we're kind of in a rare situation where you can actually buy the 4th Gen and 5th Gen version of the same truck, brand new, at the same time. You have the choice. Do you want the classic body style? Do you want the new body style? So if you find yourself in that predicament, hopefully this video will help. Before I start making comparisons, it probably helps to understand the backstory on both trucks, kind of what were their setups, trim packages. So the 4th Gen, it was a half-ton, obviously. I already mentioned that. It was a Laramie trim package, had the 5.7 Hemi, 8-speed transmission. It wasn't fully loaded, but it was pretty well loaded, at least for a half-ton Ram at the time. This truck is the Limited. It doesn't have every bell and whistle, but it has most of the bells and whistles. I don't have the e-torque. Obviously, neither did the 4th Gen. And so while we're on the topic, we might as well mention the e-torque is something that wasn't available in the 4th Gen. If you're unfamiliar with what the e-torque system is, it is a mild hybrid system that replaces the traditional alternator system in a standard pickup truck. The idea is that it improves performance and efficiency. In my mind, the key differentiator is that it really allows you to get that maximum payload in tow rating. Now, the 4th Gens had a decent tow rating, around 10,000 pounds, and that's pretty standard. With the 5th Gen Ram and e-torque, I think they're rated to 12,700, 750 pounds. So a pretty respectable improvement. If I'd known at the time that the e-torque would improve the payload and the tow rating as much as it does, probably would have went that route. But even without it, super happy with the towing power of this truck. I have, and I'm not proud of this, went way above what this is rated for. This specific trim package, it's got like the least tow rating you can get in a 5th Gen Ram, and it's like 8,700 pounds. It's a pretty wide spectrum, and it depends on different suspensions, the different rear ends, the different whether or not you have the e-torque, the length of the bed, I think matters, 4-wheel drive or not. And if there's something else I'm missing, just let me know down below, because I don't know every single one. But as a comparison, the 4th Gen pulled just fine. I didn't have the gooseneck in the 4th Gen Ram, but I pulled heavy trailers with it, and it really did a good job. While we're on the topic of the e-torque system, if you want the 3.6 liter V6 without the e-torque, you have to go 4th Gen. If you were thinking, hey, I want the V6, but I don't want to roll the dice on this new e-torque system, the 5th Gen's not for you. The 3.6 V6 in the 5th Gen is standard with e-torque. So you got to make that consideration. So with that in mind, both my trucks were very similar. Same powertrain, both crew cabs. I drove them very similarly, all over the country, all night, all day, cold weather, hot weather, high elevation, low elevation, pulling trailers. Both worked great. They also both had a very similar problem, and if you know, you know. the exhaust manifold issue. Now in the 4th gens, it was the studs, the bolts that held the exhaust manifold on. Those popped like crazy, and mine popped on my 4th gen. And that kind of sucks because getting those studs out of the block could be a bit of a challenge. Now, in the 5th gen, they got smart and constructed those bolts with a better quality material, made them a lot stronger, and in doing so, the weak link then became the manifold itself. So now the manifolds crack and the bolts hold up well. And if I had to pick my poison, I would rather the bolts be stronger than the manifold, because a cracked manifold's easier to pull off than a bunch of cracked exhaust studs. And both trucks were fairly loaded for their time. The 4th gen had most of the creature comforts. It had heated and cooled seats. It had, nice leather, the wood grain. It had the Alpine system. Ran really well. This 5th gen Ram, it's the limited trim package. It doesn't have every single bell and whistle, but it has most of the bells and whistles. So for the sake of this conversation, my 4th gen and this 5th gen were fairly equal. So with that, we'll get into the differences between the two. So let's start off with something that I don't think is relevant to a lot of people, but it is important to note if you're looking for a specific truck. If you want the regular cab, the 2-door version, you cannot get that in the 5th gen platform. There's a reason you haven't seen any 5th gen 2-doors. It's because they don't make them. You can still get them in the classic 4th gen body style. To be honest, I don't know a lot of people who still use 2-doors, maybe for like fleet purposes. But if you want it, it's a 4th gen option. Let's talk about the other obvious stuff. The infotainment system, the 12-inch screen. You cannot get that in the 4th gen. Now, that's probably not a big deal to some people. It doesn't enable a lot of additional value. It's more cool factor. The 4th gen Ram, I had no problems with the display. It worked great, was responsive. It was kind of a tried and true form factor. It was good. But one thing and one difference about the 5th gen from the 4th gen that the bigger screen does make nice is that it really helps highlight the benefit of the additional cameras you get in the 5th gen. You get the 360 cameras. You didn't get that on the old half tons. So with the big screen in the 5th gen that you didn't get in the 4th, and the additional cameras in the 5th gen that you don't get in the 4th, it's a nice combination. They complement each other well. While we're talking about the interior, the 5th gens have the wireless charging option, which I find extremely helpful. It will charge even through a phone case. It's in a nice, comfortable position. If I had to make any critiques about the position, I wish it was a little higher, because even though I don't support using your phone while you're driving, when it's charging and you get a notification, it draws your eyes down and you kind of have to take your eyes pretty far off the road to see it. But that's nitpicky, and it's not. The main difference is that it has it in the 5th gen and not the 4th. 5th gen also has Type-C USB fast charging ports here in the front. Didn't have that in the 4th gen. The 5th gen also offers the premium Harman Kardon sound system. They call it premium, but if you've seen my other videos, you know how I feel about it. It is not as good as the 4th gen. Well, it's not as good as the 4th gen with the Alpine system. And I know I'm not the only one who thinks that. I'm not a big forum guy, but I did stumble across a video of a guy talking about his new 2500 Ram the other day, and it's got the Harman Kardon, and he came out of a 4th gen 2500 or 3500, I can't remember, and he had the same comments. He said that his new and improved 17 or 19 speaker Harman Kardon it paled in comparison to the 4th gen Alpine system. Now, I don't know if they make the Classic with the Alpine, because I know that they limit some of the high-end features you can get in the new Classics. But if you're just in the market in general for a 4th gen truck, get you one with the Alpine system and you will not regret it. It sounds amazing. This may not fully be in frame. the full panoramic sunroof. Not an option in the 4th gen. You could get the regular sunroof, not the full pano. And I am a fan of the pano. It works great, looks good. It does have some critical weak points. It does let in a lot of heat. It does cause some leaking issues. That's all pretty well founded. If you are the cautious type and don't want a bell or whistle that might cause some problems, I might stay away from the full glass, because some people seem to think, and I tend to agree, it's the cause of a couple issues, and it's not necessary. So 4th gen might win in the sunroof category. I do like it, I do use it, but there is a price to pay for that. While we're close to the sunroof, there's also a button here for the tailgate release. Yeah, tailgate drop. I feel pretty fortunate, because usually that tailgate sticks, but every time I make it a video, it opens right up. So, you know, what do you expect? So the power tailgate, it's also a dampened release, so it opens softly, and it is so nice to just click that button and it just slowly falls. It's enabled via this control here in the headliner, as well as on the fob. It's in my pocket. You push the button, the tailgate falls. You don't get that in the 4th gen. Not that the 4th gen's tailgate was a problem. In fact, my 4th gen tailgate actually opened and closed better than this one from a latching and a mechanism standpoint. This one just has a button and it's dampened. So when it works right, it's actually pretty nice. So that's pretty much the interior benefits of the truck. Let's talk a little bit about the exterior stuff. It's subjective. Is the 5th gen better than the 4th gen? The Classic has more of that classic crosshair style front grille. They did away with that in the 5th gen. I think they both look good. I like them both. I would drive both. But, you know, the 5th gen is more stylish in my opinion. It's more up to date. It's more modern. So it is what it is. It's personal preference. But other than that, the outside's not much different. It still looks like a Ram. It's not a huge departure from the 4th gen line. It's just freshened up. The new 5th gens come with the full LED dynamic, I think they call them dynamic bi LED headlights. So not only are they really bright and really clean looking, but they also turn with the steering wheel. That's not like a new thing, but the 4th gen didn't have it. It's a nice feature. It actually works on the 5th gen. It's not gimmicky. It actually does a good job. As well as the power steps. Now you can get aftermarket power steps. That shouldn't be a deal breaker, but the 5th gen comes with it on certain trim packages. The Classic does not. Now drivability. Drivability is also a little subjective, but there are some things in the 5th gen that you didn't get on the 4th gen or in the new Classic. First of all, adaptive cruise control. Love the adaptive cruise control. It works amazing. Sometimes it works too good. You'll be going 50 miles per hour behind somebody in an 85 mile per hour zone and not even realize it, because it just perfectly tracks with the person in front of you. I really like it. The lane assist is great. The auto parallel parking thing, I don't use it, but it's a neat feature if you don't know how to park your truck. The emergency e-stop system, that's not available in the Classic or the 4th gen. Basically, if you get too close to somebody, your truck stops. It will scare the hell out of you, and it does scare the hell out of you, but it could keep you out of an accident. And I actually honestly feel pretty confident that this truck has kept me out of 2 accidents with that emergency stop. It is a wonderful feature. So if you got more money than you know what to do with, and you're buying your child or your wife or your significant other a vehicle, and you want them to have the most safest possible Ram, then the 5th gen is a better choice than the 4th gen. From a drivability perspective, I have to mention the ergonomics of the 5th gen versus the 4th. In all the 4th gen trucks I ever drove, the 3500s, the 2500s, the half-ton Laramie we're doing the comparison on now, never in those 500 plus thousand miles, probably close to 700,000 miles, I never had the knee pain that I get driving this 5th gen Ram. And I hate saying it. I hate being the negative Nancy about the comfortability of this truck. But man, it just, the pedal position and the trans tunnel and the console position, it just puts your leg in a weird position. If you've, and it, you know, if you got little legs or short feet, it's probably okay. But a normal sized adult, I think, can understand what I'm getting at here. It's not comfortable at the end of the day. I find myself rubbing my knee even when I'm not driving, kind of, you know, nursing my my ailing joints, and it sucks. It's not so much that I'm going to go sell the truck, but it's like, man, Ram, did you sit in this thing before you made the changes? And just drive it. Depending on how you sit, if you got good posture, bad posture, I don't know. It may not be a problem, but it's not fun if you're my dimensions, I guess. Now, I've got a little bit of a surprise Easter egg quirk trick for you, and it's a differentiator between the 4th gen and 5th gen. The 4th gen Hemis, half tons, they had a screw-on fuel cap, a normal fuel door, and it had the not locking, but, you know, had a plastic fuel cap. No big deal, right? Well, the 5th gens, at least the 5th gen half tons, because I think they had capless fuel doors on the heavy duties on some of them in the 4th gen, but I might be wrong there. On this 5th gen, there's no gas cap to twist. It's just got that spring-loaded flap, you know. I am not joking you when I say that when you put the fuel nozzle in and you go to pump your fuel, if you shove it all the way in and you pull the handle and you lock it at the highest flowing rate for the gas pump, 9 times out of 10, you will trip that trigger and it'll stop pumping. And I'm sure all of you can relate to the pain, the absolute anguish of putting your fuel nozzle, the fuel pump on, locking it in place, getting 20 feet away from it, going into the gas station, and you hear that click, and you're like, no. You turn around and you see that damn fuel handle tripped and it stopped pumping. Dude, 9 times out of 10, I am not exaggerating. There's something about this truck, and I don't think it has anything to do with the fuel cap. Don't get me wrong. But the redesign of that filler neck, there's something wonky about it, and it doesn't like as fast of a rate of speed. So I either have to put it on the lowest setting and let that gas tank trickle fill, and this has got the big 33-gallon tank. Is that different? I think that's different. At least my other half ton in the 4th gen didn't have a 33-gallon tank. So I either have to fill it slowly, or I figured out a little trick. I'll show you a little clip of how we do it. So here's the trick. If you cock the handle to the side and wedge it against this little plastic and rubber piece on the fuel door where it spring loads into this device, at that angle, it will stay depressed at full rate and not trip on you. So now you know. So if you have a 5th gen and you have felt my pain and you have to stand there and hold it, which maybe that's safer anyway, to stand there and hold your pump, but I got to go in and get my coffee. Maybe that will help you. And that's pretty much it. Now, I know that's not everything. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty, you know, the subtle differences in the new transmissions. You know, they're both 8-speed automatics. I'm not going to get into the subtle differences of, you know, the new 5th gen steering wheel has this darker wood grain. Those to me aren't that big of a deal. I'm mostly talking about the important, you know, impactful value proposition type changes from the 4th gen to the 5th gen. So it is also important to note that they're not the same price. The classic truck you can get for thousands of dollars less than the 5th gen. So if you want Ram reliability, if you want that Hemi motor in a pickup truck, and you don't really care about the upgrades, either aesthetically, functionally, from a driving perspective, then the Classic may be a good truck for you. Now, me personally, I would not go back to the fourth gens. Not that they're bad trucks. There's a chance that someday down the road I'll buy another one. In fact, I was considering it recently. But for what I do, the added features, both safety wise and the adaptive cruise control, I would not go back to the fourth gen platform. I really do enjoy the fifth gen. It's all going to be subjective. I will say this: if you're on the fence and you don't want to pay fifth gen Ram money, don't go test drive a limited, because you're going to want one. If you've never driven either, go get in the Classic. If you like it and you're on a budget, just get the Classic, because you can't go wrong. They're both really solid trucks. So that's my opinion, guys. If you've had a fourth and a fifth gen, feel free to let me know if I missed anything. I'm sure that there's one or two things that I didn't touch on, but feel free to chime in. And as always, thanks to Real Truck. They are the sponsors again this season here at Truck Central. Head on over to realtruck.com. Whether you've got Chevys, Fords, Toyotas, and you need a bed cover, intakes, side steps, mud flaps, floor mats, they've pretty much got any truck mod that you could want. So thanks again. We'll leave a link to them down in the description below. If you have a comment, please leave it. I look forward to talking to you. And as always, thanks for watching.